Hi my couples, and welcome back to my channel where I share wedding tips with you every week on how to plan your wedding. So today we are talking about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, and no, it is not makeup. It's the other one, food. And in particular, food trucks. So what to consider when actually thinking about having a food truck for your wedding is what we're going to be talking about today. So like I said, these are going to be things that you're going to want to think about either before you decide to go with a food truck or if you are actually going to go with a food truck. The first thing is, will your venue allow it? Some venues in their contract state that they do not allow any outside or food and beverage. Other venues do not provide food and beverage, like barns, or if you are doing a basically event space from scratch in a field somewhere, then you're a-okay with having food trucks. The next thing you want to think about is, where is the food truck going to park in proximity to the actual reception? Are your guests going to have a long haul from the parking lot that they have to park in to the actual reception space, or can they just pull right up and they're very close to the reception space? Are your guests going to have to go into, a dark, seedy looking alley to go get their food? It all really depends, but you want to think about this because your guests are going to be in evening wear most of the time, unless you're having, a low-key type of style wedding. So you want to think about this when the trucks and where they will park actually. One of the positives of actually having a food truck is they can show up and they don't require power. They are set up to basically show up, open up their doors, and be able to serve your guests, which is awesome because a lot of the time barns and venues like that, or if you are again doing a venue space from scratch, you have limited electricity or no electricity. So the fact that they can just roll up, open up their doors, and start to serve your guests is key, okay? When hiring them though, you want to ask how many guests they can serve in a 30-minute period. If they say they can serve, 100 guests in an hour and you have 200 guests, that means that the last person to actually get their food is normally probably waiting somewhere around 2 hours. If that was me, I'd be really annoyed. So you want to make sure that they can serve your guests in an adequate amount of time. So to also help with serving time, I recommend sitting down with the food trucks in advance and creating a smaller version of their menu. A few options that you guys really enjoy from their food truck, but also that they can make quickly so that they can get through your guests in a quicker amount of time. Having menus of the limited menu that you've agreed upon with the food trucks also helps. We all have those Karins, we all know them. They will get up there, they will ask a million questions about the menu. What's in this? What's in that? How do you make this? It's easier if they can look at that stuff ahead of time at the actual table, and that way they're not holding up the line to place their order. Also, when picking the options, make sure that you have a variety for your guests. You want to make sure that you are covering all or any food dietary restrictions that your guests might have. So if you have vegans, vegetarians, make sure that you have those options as well for those guests. I recently went to a wedding, shout out to Bree and Christy. They did an amazing job at this. They had several food trucks for their wedding. It was hosted in a barn in Hudson, New York. And they had about 4 food trucks show up for the dinner portion. So that actually really helped it. There was no line. All of their guests got through the line quickly, got their food, and it just worked out really well. And it was an awesome time. That was probably one of the best weddings I've actually ever been to. But then they had even more food trucks show up. So it was just like a non-stop food extravaganza. They had a cappuccino lady show up for the dessert portion, and they had later on in the evening they had a wood fire stove food truck show up. So again, this gave their guests tons of options to choose from, but also it helped cut down on the amount of time that guests were waiting for the food as well. Another thing to keep in mind is a food truck is not a caterer. I know, shocker. You are hiring them to provide food. They are not in the business of providing wait staff. So you want to make sure that you do have someone to bus the tables. You also want to make sure you're going to have tables and chairs. Is the venue going to provide this, or is this something that you're going to have to provide yourself? These are all things that normally would come with a caterer if you were going that route, but because if you are going with a food truck, these are things that you're going to have to think about. So again, tables, chairs, linens, and who is actually going to bus the tables. Otherwise, you're going to have garbage all over your tables, and there's no one to clean it up. Those are my tips for this week. Sorry that I was late this week, guys. It's just been a crazy week. Everything with COVID going on and new mandates being released pretty much 24/7. I'm just trying to keep up with the mandates, coming up with some great new ideas for my couples. But stay tuned for this week. I am hoping to get a makeup look done for you guys as well with one of my new palettes. So again, until I see you, TTFN.